Facebook and YouTube, our beautiful economic warriors from all around the world. You are watching the Coffee Shop Conversation show for entrepreneurs worldwide. I am Nistine.
And that would make me Peter.
And we are the co-founders of Explore Protech Entrepreneurial Haven. Every Monday, once a week, we bring you this amazing show of some of the best entrepreneurs we could find for that week around the world. We get them together on a Zoom and we just allow you guys to talk entrepreneurial stuff. So it's like we're going into a coffee shop together with our very best friends in the whole wide world, except they're all entrepreneurs and we just talk entrepreneurial stuff. So if you're joining us on Zoom or on Facebook or on YouTube right now, we want to say welcome. You've taken the first step. You're here. We're ready to jam-pack this episode with some amazing value as usual. And also, don't be shy. Connect with us in the chat. Guys, doesn't matter where you chat, Facebook, YouTube, Zoom. Let's find all of the comments and connect each other because that's what it's all about, right? Learning and connecting together for 1 hour a week. That way we get better together every single week. Remember, if you vibe with any of our guests on the show, all of their LinkedIn links are in the description below. So we do the hard work, like hunting down the actual people, convincing them they need to talk to us, and then convincing them they need to be on the show, then convincing them that they need to give us their LinkedIn links. All you have to do is go and click and say, hi, I saw you on the show. Can we have a coffee? And they'll say, yes, we'd love to do a coffee. Let's do it. So you're welcome.
It really couldn't get simpler than that. As entrepreneurs, we all have questions. We all have things that we battle with. Well, these are industry leaders from different industries. If they have the answer to your question, reach out and have a conversation. It is really that simple.
Mm-hmm. So without further ado, let's get straight into our entrepreneurial topic for today. So today's topic is, what is a good leader anyway? And this is a topic that I am so keen to chat about because me not understanding this topic is why I almost bankrupted my business twice. So I would love to know, because apparently good leadership skills is the secret to scaling your business. So I would absolutely love to know from you guys, what is it really? What makes a good leader anyway? And give it to me straight. Don't give me the theoretical stuff that's all over the internet. Straight up, what's been working for you in your business? What can we actually do right now to be better leaders? So guests on Zoom, not putting you on the spot or anything, but if you want to raise your hand and speak up, now would be an excellent time to do so.
I have a really good idea as to who I'd like to go first.
Well, we have a volunteer.
But he was beaten to the punch.
Siobhan, I can actually say your name. I'm so proud of myself. Let's hear from you.
Thanks. So great to be here with you again and to be able to make it. And what a great topic. I love this topic. I kind of feel there's different there's lots and lots of things that make a good leader. But one of the things that is pressed upon me as an entrepreneur that, I'm on my own in the business. I don't have a team, but I do need to surround myself. I do have support through others. And what I find is you need to surround yourself by people who know more than you, who know elements that are, that you need for your business, but it's their expertise, it's their strength, it's their genius, and not to feel, you can't tell somebody not to feel something, but if you want to be the best, you've got to hire the best. You've got to bring in the best expertise. And yes, that might be an area that you're sure of, but it will help you push beyond where you currently are. So that would be mine. And I could add loads, but I know there's lots of tips going to come from the others here.
Amazing. Love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that is Siobhan Fitzpatrick from the Networking Hub.
Thanks, Nistine and Peter.
Awesome. So good to have you on the show, Siobhan. And I just adore what you said. I mean, I've always prescribed to that, when I was in business, like in my first business by myself. That's like all I wanted was to have those people around me, that I could learn from, that I could ask, that I could follow, that I could, that are just better than me and I can endeavor to become more like them.
Yeah.
But the problem was they wouldn't speak to me. Cue Peter!
Oh, there's a story there. We need to hear this.
And now they actually speak to me. So thank you, Peter, for breaking down the walls and the barriers and just actually allowing some of the best entrepreneurs in the world to connect with each other and to even connect with startup entrepreneurs.
That's kind of the point, though.
I think it's so special. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Siobhan. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to one of those people that are now speaking to me. Mr. Levy, you've always spoken to me though, and you've been such an exceptional leader, like ever since I met you. I've just wanted to follow you like everywhere. Tell us, what is a good leader anyway, Mr. Levy?
I suppose a good leader is somebody who people follow, because if they're not following you, there's that old saying, you're just going for a walk. So it's really someone who's committed. I think it's someone who's committed to achieving the outcomes that they are responsible for, the leader is responsible for. But he or she will focus on developing and growing those that they hired, that they believe can do the job, exactly what Siobhan said. They hired them to do the job. Focus on growing and developing them. That's good leadership. And then together, because today in business, leadership is a team sport. The days are gone where you can do it on your own, and leadership don't have the luxury and time to make decisions like they used to 10, 15 years ago. It's got to be done quickly. And so you've got to use your team. But then it's also your responsibility. A good leader will hire the right people. So as opposed to just filling a position, they'll make sure they fill the position with the right people. And they'll rather take time in filling that position because it's a lot more costly in just filling it for the sake of filling it. And then I have to mention, I think it basically comes down to my 2 rules of leadership. So I'll sum it up in a nutshell. The first one is it starts with you. And the second one is it's not about you. And if you that's it. That's good leadership. And if you look in the world today, leaders that make it about them will never ever build a team, and everything goes south. And you only have to look around us today, politics, government, business. As soon as a leader, and I've worked under leaders who make it about them, it doesn't work. So those 2 rules, I think everybody should keep in mind. And then I'm going to end off by just touching on what, is it Siobhan? I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Okay.
It's Theo Bun. It's Siobhan.
That was our mistake.
Often as solopreneurs, we don't believe that we are leaders. So I want to expand on what Siobhan said, is that actually we are. Because, and even people in business, and I'm going to give you some examples. First of all, as solopreneurs, we have people that we rely on, that we outsource work to. If those people are impacting our delivery and our level of delivery, our standard of delivery, they are part of our team, even though they're not employed by us. Why don't we bring them in and share our vision and values and what our business stands for and our measures of excellence with them? We tend to leave them out. We don't have those discussions. And even with companies that I'm working with, if you ask the team, who is your team? They'll tell you everybody in the company. And then you ask them, is there anybody else that impacts your delivery, like key suppliers? They say yes. So why aren't they part of your team? Anyone who impacts your delivery, a good leader will make them part of their team. And then share their vision, share their values. I know it sounds fluffy, but there's a big thing. They're not There's one of the big complaints is that they're not on the same page. Well, if you're not reading the same book, you will never be on the same page. So you need to share your vision. And then something that you do in Explore Protech, leaders need to do is connect. Connect with the people that you're leading and communicate. And I'm sure that everyone there, I'm sure there's a lot of other valued input. So that's Stephen from Dare to Be, Coaching and Beyond.
Thank you so much, Mr. Levy.
I love that. But before we move on, we had something happen during the week which Mr. Levy was kind of aware of, but not really aware of, where he was approached in the park while sitting on a bench and handed a note. And unbeknownst to Mr. Stephen Levy, it was actually a youngster trying to create content for Facebook. I think it was some Facebook content. And the note that was handed to him, and I cannot remember what was written on the note, but it was something about the journey and the destination, and where you're at now is not where you will end up. And he didn't really know who he had approached and given the note to. So this youngster creating content just happened to approach like the leader of leaders and use him as content.
Clickbait.
So I think what we will do, because I thought that Stephen Levy was acting so brilliantly in this, like he knew exactly what his role was. Meantime, he didn't know what was going on. It was just some youngster creating content. So I think what we will do is we will drop the description of that video into the chat. Go and check it out. He's a brilliant actor. Who knew?
Only when he's not acting. I had absolutely no idea.
I just want to circle back to what Mr. Levy said about the values, because I'm one of those, smart, not smart, task-orientated individuals. So in the beginning, when I heard about the values exercise, I was like, this is so much fun. It's a fantastically fun waste of time. I'm sorry, Mr. Levy. And then what happened was it changed the retention rate in our tribe, which has become our team, from 50% to 98%. So I had to swallow my pride, and now I just listen to whatever Mr. Levy says, because he clearly knows all about leadership. So thank you so much, Mr. Levy. Your advice is always life-changing.
He's being humble again. Oh, stop it. Whatever.
Okay, so for the first time ever on the Coffee Shop Show, let's move on to Amanda O'Rourke making her debut on the Coffee Shop Show. Now, Peter, you met with Amanda. You said she's basically like a female Mr. Levy.
I referred to them as a yin and a yang, if I recall correctly.
So this is going to be great.
This is going to be good.
Amanda, no pressure. Just say something profound and life-changing.
Well, I'm actually going to carry on, I think, in the theme that we've developed. I too love this subject because leadership is so important to business. And I think what I would say is, for me, is leadership starts within. So how you lead yourself will be how you lead others. And what I mean by that is, how committed are you to your business, and how committed are you to behaving in certain ways that will actually be conducive to being successful? And I think from my own personal experience, one of the biggest development in my business happened when I learned how to be compassionate to others, to the people that worked for me, and to understand them on a different level. And I realized that I was pouring that compassion into myself first, because I wasn't being kind to myself. I was working sort of 60 hours a week. I was giving myself no self-care at all. And so it was no wonder that was then being replicated to the people who work for me. I was short-tempered. I wasn't really kind to them. I was expecting the world on a stick, and it was not feasible that was ever going to work. So when I kind of turned on to being more kind to myself, naturally that then fills you up. So you've got something to give. And somebody wise said to me at the time, you can't give what you haven't got. If you've got no kindness being shown to yourself, then you can't reflect it back to anyone else. So I think for me, leadership always starts with you. But, you know, sort of Stephen said, it starts with you, but it's not about you. It's about then using that in a really beautiful way to help others become the best they can be. And the other thing I wanted to say about leadership, which is something I learned along my way as well, is that actually hire people who challenge you. Because, you know, it's such a courageous thing to do, because I was like, I want an echo chamber. I want everybody to nod in agreement and, like, you know, do what they're told and get on with it, you know. But you don't grow that way. You need somebody to push your buttons. And if you're in the right place, if you've given yourself the right self-care and everything, you are totally receptive to it. You're open to it. And so you can receive it and go, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I'd never thought of that. I wish I had. So, yeah, those are my two things that I would say is what leadership is all about.
And you are Amanda O'Rourke, and your business is?
So I'm a business coach. My name for my business is Amanda O'Rourke Coaching, so it's quite easy to remember.
Told you.
I know. I didn't believe you, okay? Amanda, what an amazing debut in the coffee shop. Like, I am so in awe of you right now. I think I'm going to marry Amanda. I'm sorry. No, but Amanda, like, seriously, I feel exactly the same as I felt with Stephen Levy. Like, when I've always, you know, like, been obsessed with, like, learning, just, like, so much, and listening to these things that people say. And they always say, like, leadership starts within. And I would be, like, listening to that, and then I do, like, the mental checklist. And I'm like, I always show up on time. I work 16-hour days regularly. You know, I produce results. I have achieved stuff. I must be leading myself. Like, I can't figure out what's wrong with the other people. Like, maybe I need to beat them into submission or something. Like, why aren't they like me?
Because 90% of the time they couldn't keep up.
I didn't have any compassion for myself. And it was only much later in life, when life kind of like forced me to start learning some compassion for myself, that I noticed that when I focus on developing that compassion for myself is when I can actually actively step into helping and growing other people. Because otherwise what tends to happen is I get so irritated and frustrated with myself, and I push myself so hard that I do the same to other people.
And then nobody can keep up.
Other people don't like that.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
So it's made such a world of difference. Like, so, like, guys, I just want to say, like, you need to listen to what this woman said. Like, rewind and listen to it again and then connect with her, because it actually makes such a massive difference. Thank you so much for raising it, Amanda. Awesome. Love it. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the Oprah Winfrey of scam prevention. Darlene, I cannot wait to hear from you. What is a good leader anyway?
Well, I think, first of all, you need to be able to believe that you are a leader. Because if you're leading people and you keep, you know, saying things that you that are hesitant that you are demonstrating you are a leader, I think that doesn't give them confidence in you. And be a good listener, for sure. You know, like, you have to be able to listen to what your team is having for suggestions to help grow your team, and let them try it out. You know, if they have ideas, then, you know, let them try it out, as long as it's within your, you know, the framework of what your work is, and show recognition to your team. I think lots of times people forget about, you know, that their team is working, and they are basically, I think it is, I've always read that when you're working for somebody, that you're working for to increase that person's pocket, not their own. And so, you know, really recognize that your team, the work that your team is doing. And the one thing that when I was a program manager in my previous life, I always made sure that I didn't hire my clone. I always wanted to hire people with the skills that I didn't have. And I found that, like when you say to hire the best, yes, you want to hire the best, but you also want to make sure that you're hiring people that don't have the exact same skills, and do delegate. Because I remember when I first got a leadership role, it was much easier for me just to do than it was to train and to teach. And so I remember having 11 practicum students, and they're all standing around, and I'm busy. And that's when it clued into me. I'm like, wait a minute. And so, so then the teaching began. And, like the time that you spend teaching is what you're going to get out of what you put into it. And so I really think that that's really important too. And if you happen to have hired a person who's not right for your team, like they came across as they would be, the referrals, the references, always check your references also. Your references came across that, yes, they would be a perfect fit, but they're not. If you could find a way to gently ease them out, because if you have good conversations with them, they're going to realize that, yeah, this isn't really where I want to grow. And I know one of the things that as a leader that I really struggled with was I went through all of this time training these people, and now they're going to go on to another organization as a supervisor. Wow. What a compliment that is. Like, they are moving up. And so rather than feeling that you've spent so much time, and so, because it does cost money to train, they learn and then they move on. But that to recognize that that's what people are doing, and you should be working at having them move on and move up if your organization isn't the kind that's got that opportunity for growth. I think that's all I have.
I really like that.
Darlene Petrie from?
Darlene Petrie from Scam Prevention International in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Thank you, Darlene.
Nestine, can I share a quick story that was related to Darlene? Triggered it. It's
Go for it.
So yeah. Darlene, it's like there's that old story, with the CFO and the CEO having a chat. And the CFO, like a good numbers man, says to the CEO, what if we invest in our people and they leave? And the CEO said to him, what if we don't and they stay?
Yeah, 100%.
That is hilarious.
Something that was highlighted for me was, if you're in a task oriented space and it's task driven, if you're focusing on just the task and not the person doing the task, then the task may get done, but you're not functioning at the capacity that you actually can. If you understand the person that is achieving the task, you're more likely to choose the right person for the right task because you have an understanding of the person. So, keep bringing it back to humanity. It's not about understanding the task, it's about understanding the person. If you understand the person, you can position them, and you can position people based on who they are and their strengths and their weaknesses. And that is like playing chess with a team, and you've got a winning team. So understand the person. The task is something that will get achieved to its highest end if you're positioning the right person based on who they are. So I like that.
Love that. I'm learning so much. Like, this is really not my subject, which is why I struggle so much with it. But I just want to also highlight something that you said, Darlene, about there's always a way to have a gentle conversation, no matter what you're trying to achieve. So that's something that I learned it from you, okay? So thank you, Peter.
That's impressive.
I've never in my life watched anyone else in the world lead the way that Peter does.
Because it was their idea.
Whose?
The person I was talking to, it was their idea. I just kind of put it there and then.
You're confusing.
Yeah, I know.
But so what Peter does is no matter what conversation he's having with you, like whether it's to, it doesn't matter really what he's trying to achieve. It's always a gentle conversation. There's always like no damage to the actual relationship. Like Peter takes such good care of his relationships, and I really admire that. Because as someone that I struggle to set boundaries, so the only way for me to set a boundary, I would think, is to really, be like, don't do that, no! And Peter doesn't do that. He has this amazing way of communicating with people in a way that is just magnificent. So I feel like spending time with Darlene, even just like chatting and developing, and with you, like developing those skills to have those gentle conversations and to realize how important it is to never burn a bridge and to always take care of your relationships is so valuable.
Well, you can't go wrong having a conversation with Darlene because, and I'll admit this, I mean, I meet a lot of people, and I like to get to know people for who they are and what they do and how they achieve things. And every now and then you have a conversation with somebody that you remember the very first conversation that you ever had. So Darlene is just one of those. And we had that initial conversation, and I still remember from when we first met, I was like, oh, I like her. Because there was just something about her that was just so easy to connect with. So do yourself a favor, even if you've got nothing in common in business, even if you do not understand what she does, even if you have no idea who she is, reach out and have the conversation. It'll be a conversation that you will remember.
Speaking of more people to have awesome conversations with, Natalie and Rona are totally supporting us on YouTube right now. So we absolutely adore you guys. Just wanted to give you a shout out. And Chris, can we put the links in the description as well? So if people want to connect with a wellness coach or a copywriter, they can go ahead and chat to Rona and Nat. Rona and Nat, thank you so much for joining us. Let's move on to one of my favorites that I've learned so much from. Linda, what is a good leader anyway?
What is a good leader anyway?
Exactly.
There are so many views on the topic, but I'm loving how our Explore Protech members have really highlighted the care and compassion and kindness aspects, which for someone like myself who's been in business for almost 40 years, I'm not quite grey yet, but getting there. It's the world has changed so dramatically. I can't help but think back to 1984 and what the world was like and the way managers would just come along, or nobody even talked about leaders. It was managers, right? And they would just dump work on your desk and you must just get on with it. And the world has changed quite a bit. So if you bear in mind that I came from that sort of background, I wanted just to share a very short story. I will not take 30 minutes, I promise, Chris and Pamelia, I'll give you time. But I've come to realize in my mind that being a good leader is like being a good mom. And I am a mom, not all of you. And I'm sure it's a good dad as well for these days, but I'm just going to use this analogy of being a good mom. So, as a mom, my theory is that you start out with some knowledge, but really you have absolutely no clue how to be a mom. You read a few books, people give you some advice, they tell you how to do it. And you've just got to, and you end up sort of figuring it out as you go along. But it starts with care, right? It starts with love and care and compassion and absolute commitment to this little person. And as they grow up, they become, there's difficulties, there's challenges, there's talking back, there's misbehaving, and you've got to find techniques and tools and ways to communicate better, to improve your relationship with them over time. And at some point, fast forward to 20 years old or 21 years old, you've hopefully built this human being into someone who can cope, can cope in the world, that is self-confident, that is able to go out and take that next step. And I'm telling you that story really because you know, it's like you wave them on the journey, you allow them to go and explore the world without you. And to me, I ended up doing the same thing with in the banks that I used to work at with my team. So for many, many years, I was the maverick, the lone maverick on my own, no team to deal with. So I could do whatever I wanted when I wanted, right? And just submit the reports like, you know, like you, Nestine, right? And then I got a team thrown at me and basically said, you know, lead this team. And I didn't know what it was like being a mom again. It's like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to deal with these people. I don't know how to build those relationships. So it's some trial and error, some being authoritative for a while, you know, do this, don't do that. Here's the instructions, get on with it. So there was a bit of that kind of mom coming out. And over time, I realized that the best results came from care again. So just realizing that people have a life and they have problems and they have their own dreams and they're not the same as yours, like, and they challenge you and, you know, they're not going to do things the same way. And I realized then that care was the first element. And the second was the growth that Stephen talked about a bit earlier as well, that once you cared about them, they trusted you, and then you were able to share more with them because they were keen to listen. And then they could grow to the point where they don't need you as much, just like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old child, that you've brought them up to that point where they can move on into the world and make their own mark. And that's the same, finally, as being a small business. As you start to develop your team, whether it's insourced or outsourced employees, is the same thing. Care about them, build the relationships, share with them what you want them to do, the vision and the tasks, and build them up to the point where you trust them and they can trust you, and they can move on to their own journey, whether that's up a ladder in your organization or out into the world to do their own thing. And so, yeah, that's my story. It's, I think being a good leader is being like a good mom. And that's, let me finish. And that's Linda Dant from Just Ask Linda. I'm a business strategy coach and at least a 2-year member of Explore Protech, which I'm very proud to be a part of. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Linda. I just love that analogy. That is one of the first times that it actually makes sense to me. And Peter's also a very good dad, so that's probably why you're a good leader.
That's because my children thought it was their idea to behave properly.
Yeah, I still don't get it. I think it's phenomenal. I love that, and it makes so much sense. So I think I'm going to try to discover more of my inner mom. But can I just say, Linda, it sounds like freaking hard work.
Yes.
There is no shortcut. Being a leader is hard work. Yes. If you don't want to be a leader, then just go and, just go and do some data capture or something, because being a leader is complex. It involves all of these aspects, right? And you've got to balance it and you've got to juggle it and, you've got to sweep it up again. You've got to do all of those things.
I think that was maybe one of my mistakes as well in the beginning, because I thought you learned the leadership thing, and I'm good at learning things. I mean, I learned accounting, it's like, and then I thought like people just start following you and doing your stuff, and that's it. But that's not it. Got it. Thank you so much, Linda. Really appreciate it. Let's move on to Chris, the leader of our YouTube team, the Visibility Ninjas. Chris, super keen to hear from you. What is a good leader anyway?
I like the analogy with linking to being a parent and things. And actually, I'm going to rather ask a question, because I don't think any of us are a perfect leader. We're always in that process of learning and growing. And if you don't know, sometimes it's good to ask somebody. And sometimes, like any other task or job or business of your own, you're sometimes too close to it to see and understand what's really going on. So reach out to the likes of your Stephen Levy and your Lindas and your Amandas and Darlene's and them, and get them to help you, because they get that outside perspective and they can tell you, you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not. The path, what's the saying? The path to hell is paved with good intentions. You mean well, but you're not getting there. So get that advice. That's it. But my question is as a good leader, if we're all going to make mistakes, we can't get it perfect straight off the bat. You're still learning as you're going along. So if you really come to the point and you go, oh, wait, hang on, I've been doing things wrong. Is it okay to turn around and be vulnerable as a leader? Does it not take away from your authority and say, hey, guys, thought I was doing well, I did it wrong, and apologize, claim it, and show what you plan to do to change it? So I have a question for that. Do you think that's a good idea? That's Chris Holby from Live to Dream. I do lead generation through networking. Done.
Chris, I've got you on this one. If you don't have the ability to turn around and say that you've made a mistake and you've been going the wrong way, it shows weakness of character. If you're the kind of leader that can stand up and say, hey guys, I've been doing this wrong and I need to change, shows so much more character, not only to yourself and others, but especially to your team. That kind of character is the kind of character that builds trust. And that kind of character creates a space that people want to be led in, because they want to be able to trust the person that is leading them. So if you are a leader and you're in a space where you've been doing it wrong and you realize you need to change, the last people that you need to be scared of are the team and the approach and going, hey guys, let's have this conversation. Because that's where it starts. That's where the change happens. So I've got a story about it, but I'm not going to tell it now. I'll wait until the end, but 100%, that is the direction that you should be going in.
I think it's a fabulous question.
Definitely.
I also think like that comes back maybe to, as a leader, I still feel like this. I still make this mistake. I feel like everyone expects me to have the answer. But the fact is, like, if I don't have the answer and I'm not the expert in the field, putting in someone else to actually lead us, but by holding their hand, like Stephen Levy always says, it's like a kite. You like let them go, you care about them, and then you let them go a little bit further, and then if they try to go off a cliff, you have the strength, so you pull them back so they never fall. But because like on the island with Bear Grylls, like there's people on there and they like volunteer, I'm gonna lead you to the beach through the jungle. And then halfway through, they turn around and they're like, actually, I don't have any idea where we're going. Like, the people that follow that leader, they get pretty upset.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting, though. I can't wait to hear what the rest of you have to say on that topic. Familia, over to you. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So, what is a good leader anyway?
Oh, my goodness. I'm not sure I can add that much, because everyone's kind of covered all, I think, the good aspects of being a leader. The one thing I would say, though, I've been in supervisor and managerial positions in corporate, and then also leading team of people in my businesses, and really getting to know that person one-on-one. So that you know what their values are, you know what their dreams are, you know what they're looking for as they want to grow. So have those conversations with them, take them out for coffee or a glass of wine after work, and just get to know them personally. And they, I think, will follow you everywhere. And also let the team, when you have a team, let them gel as a team. I did that a couple of times when I was supervising when I worked for the Canadian government. And it made a big difference in that they really felt that they owned what we were doing. And even though it was government work, and yes, we had specific things that we had to do, but by just letting them feel that they were had some input and had some direction, and we're assisting with the direction. And that's invaluable information that I'm going to be certainly taking into my next business, because I'll be having a team of practitioners as I'm developing this virtual global healing institute. So communication, yeah, I think is really important. And I think just what everybody else has said, certainly ask advice. And Chris, I really believe it's true that when you have not gone the right direction or figured out you've made a mistake, just as leaders, we have to be vulnerable. That I'm a leader and I'm not ever making a mistake, because what I say goes. As I think it was Linda, or maybe it was Amanda, that said, those days are totally gone. They're completely, just because you're leading now. It's not, you're leading as a team. And so, yes, it might be your team and you might be leading it, but yes, you have to be vulnerable for sure.
I adore that, Pamelia. That is such valuable words of advice. Thank you so much for sharing. And you are Pamelia Parham from?
Oh, right. Why do we always forget that? Pamelia Parham, Vibrational Healing. I'm a certified body code and emotion code practitioner from Canada, on the west coast of Canada, Vancouver Island.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, what I really liked about what you shared was the really letting the team gel and the connecting with that people one-on-one, like actually caring and actually paying attention. It makes such a massive difference. But I feel maybe like some leaders have different strengths and weaknesses as well. Maybe I think that's something I can be good at, but the difficult conversations is something you're definitely better at.
Let's keep it in context. I mean, we're talking about the one side of leadership, which is the vulnerable side, and allowing people opportunities and understanding who they are, and that guidance, and that the nice way and the gentle way of leading people. But at the same time, there's balance to that. A good leader also has to have the ability to do the opposite. At some points in time, you've got to have the ability to put your foot down, because certain things don't fall within the dynamic or the space, and it's not going to work for you, and it's not going to work for your team. So sometimes you need to be the warrior that protects, and sometimes you need to be the gentle hand that guides. But you need to have the ability to do both in a really calm and building fashion. If you're the kind of person that loses your patience, don't be a leader. You'll ruin it. There's this, and I think you can, as a leader, put your foot down, say no, and still build the person that you're saying no to in the process. But you've got to know who they are. You've got to know what they want out of life. You've got to know where their strengths are. There's got to be that guidance. So you can't, if you're not guiding them and you're just saying no, there's kind of no point. Okay.
I just want to learn more. I don't know how to do this stuff.
If you want to learn more, then let's go back to Mr. Levy and let's just double check and see if anybody else has put their hands up. Yeah. I don't think we can see everybody at the moment, so let's just double check that.
Let's bring up the Levy. Teach us, Mr. Levy. We are grasshoppers.
I'm learning a lot from it. There's such awesome input here. It's also valid and significant. It's incredible. But, I think in answer to Chris's question, does a leader show up and be vulnerable? If you go back to that old saying, we don't follow what you say, we follow what you do. And if a leader thinks that they're going to be bulletproof, that's exactly the culture they will have in their team, that people will be fearful of making mistakes. If a leader shows up as a human and admits to his mistakes, he will give permission to his team to do the same. And then create that culture. So, yeah. And what you said, Pete, and that's built off a foundation of trust. So leadership, somebody asked, I think Nestine, you said it's hard. It is. It's a tough journey because it's huge responsibility. It's a responsibility and a privilege.
Mm. Luckily, we naturally make many mistakes. So, that's how we met Linda, was at our first networking event that was basically just mistakes.
It was just a mistake. Like, you could not mess up a networking event
worse than we did.
Better than that, because we messed it up real good. And I think it was the comedy But they weren't watching the networking event. They were watching the comedy of how things went wrong. And it was amusing, and everybody just stuck around like an audience.
It had to get better. Hey, I remember thinking at the end of that first Gozon event, it just has to get better. I have to come back next month to just see that it's better. No, great. It was great. It was what it was, right? That vulnerability was there.
It was like a comedy show.
Awesome. Let's go back to Cinnabon.
Cinnabon. Cinnabon. And there's the first time I've been called Cinnabon. I've been called many, many different things, but Cinnabon is not one of them. And I like that, Cinnabon. What a rich hour of knowledge and experience and awareness that we're bringing to this around leadership. One of the things that struck me, and it's come through all of that's been said before, particularly what Stephen had said about worried about if people leave, they're going to leave anyway if you're not looking after them. And I think through COVID, we can say this as a global experience, it's not just regional or where we're based in the world, it's happened everywhere. Companies realized that if they had never invested in their people before now, it became very obvious when they started to work remotely and from home how disconnected they were from their people. Some were very fortunate and good at turning that around, and others not so good. People will leave anyway. And I have to say, before I started to work for myself, I worked for companies and I managed big teams, global teams. And I remember a number of people coming to me and they were like, oh my God, I'm so afraid to tell you that I'm actually leaving the company. And I was like, okay, why? What's happening? Where are you going? What's out there for you? And some would say, well, I'm expecting a baby. And I'm like, great news. I'm like, well, you're not, that's going to mean so much work for you. I said, that's not your problem. That's my job as a leader. You've got to look after yourself. Others were leaving because they were getting better challenges. And I said, fantastic. This is great. We can't give you that. Unfortunately, go out, go learn, and hopefully we may be able to attract you back one day, but there is no way I would stand in anybody's growth path as a leader. And that is when you need to realize, I think people have to be connected to their staff, to their whoever they're mentoring, whoever they're leading. If you don't have to know every nuance of their life, because some keep their personal life, but you've got to know them as an individual, how they tick, how they operate, when they're at their best, when they're at their worst, how they receive information. And every manager is a leader. And here's where I think we're actually missing, we haven't talked about, and I know it's 5 minutes to go or 8 minutes to go, is who's teaching our managers, who's guiding our leaders. Oftentimes company put individuals into these roles without giving them the tools and the structures and the learning on how to lead with confidence, how to lead with empathy, how to lead with vulnerability. We are falling short in teaching or educating our leaders to be leaders. Often they get promoted and they're dumped in the seat and they're told, there you go, well done you, you've been promoted. In actual fact, they've been given a rope, basically, if they don't do something themselves. So I think as companies, we need to help them on their journey of leadership, because it's not an easy task.
Definitely.
I relate to that. And the thing that I'd like to say about that is that there's nobody that should be without a leader. Even the highest of leaders needs a leader. There's always that learning curve. We're all learning from each other. If you have a leader that refuses to learn, it's like teaching an old dog new tricks. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But in the situation of having a space where people need to learn leadership, we can just solve the situation and we just send in Mr. Levy.
Well said. Well said.
Or Mrs.
Awesome.
O'Rourke.
Yeah, Amanda, Stephen, Linda. We have so many beautiful humans on on the call that can actually help with that. So I'll put it out there right now. We have a tribe training session tomorrow with the one and only Levy.
You don't want to miss that.
Session is going to be about
What is it going to be about?
Stephen, it's something about a mountain. Reaching your peak, being a mountain. Something like that. A leader's Everest, being a mountain. What is it? No, come on. What's
We're guessing here.
Come on.
Reaching your peak, leadership's Everest.
Fantastic. Okay,
That
guys.
sounds so familiar.
So if you want to reach your peak and learn about leadership's Everest, we're having that show on tomorrow, tribe training. All you got to do to be invited to be there is comment on this video. And one of us will reach out to you and we'll pull you in. We'll send you the link. You can be there. Even if you're too late to show up in person, we do record it. No pressure, Mr. Levy. So we can send it to you whenever you like. We're here for you. That's what we do, right? We're helping entrepreneurs around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Darlene, are you going to wrap us up before we say goodbye to everybody?
I just had one comment in that I know we have in the past, not we Explore Trek, but with my work. Previously, we had sent many leaders to different trainings, and because we definitely believe that we have to, train the supervisors, program managers, executive directors, board. What I found is that there needs to be that person that's going to hold accountability, that they're going to practice what they've learned, because I can't count how many times I myself see on the bookshelves all the courses that I've taken, and they just collect dust. So that's the thing, is to be able to try and have people practice what they've learned. And that's what I'm trying to do with this group, because it's so awesome. I learned so much. So thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Darlene. And that's such a valid point, because you will know, Darlene, that this week we actually got forced by Megan Diaz to launch our very first mentorship mentee program in the tribe. So that's where we're trying to do exactly that, right? And I think it is so exciting. So guys, if you want to come practice what we've been preaching on the coffee shop show, you can get teamed up with one of these amazing individuals on the screen right now. Like, how amazing would that actually be, right? So then you get to actually practice everything we've been talking about, and we really get to learn about each other. So amazing stuff, guys. On that note, we are going to say goodbye to YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for...
Before we say goodbye, just one final thing that I have sent to your WhatsApp. Can you drop that in the description? I know that your WhatsApp is open behind the scenes.
Can you send it to Chris? Awesome. So we will have the link for you to Mr. Levy's acting career video launch on there right now. Oh yeah, before we go, quick thing. Guys, these glasses, I promise I will give them a shout out. The suppliers of these glasses, they are Specsavers in Belleville. You talk to Mel and Polisa. They are the most amazing, fantastic, incredible human beings on this planet. Like, they helped me just so much. I found these in 5 minutes, and it just works, and it's beautiful. It has nothing on it that I don't need on it. So if you want to go get your glasses, we have an excellent contact for you. We'll link their description in the link below as well. Remember to go and connect with all the people that you vibe with today on the show. Learn from them. It's all about learning and growing together, guys. And on that note, remember to come back next week. We are here for you every single week for 1 hour. You just tune in for 1 hour. You make some awesome friends with entrepreneurs around the world. You learn something and you grow.
And if you have questions, we can't answer them unless you actually ask them. We're not telepathic. We don't know what you're thinking. So drop your questions, and we can actually step into the space of actually giving you some value and really answering the questions that you need answered. So pop those questions in. We'll give it a bash.
Yeah, remember to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next week, guys. If you're on the Zoom, you're welcome to stay for a bit of a after chat. If you're on YouTube, this is it for now. We love you, and may all your wildest entrepreneurs